Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tequila Talks. And today we have a very, very special person. If you don't know, well, now you know. We got Prima, we got Michelle Flores, uh, personal friend, and also Realty of America real estate agent, aka badass. Hi, Michelle. How are you, Prima?
Good. How are you, Primo? I appreciate the intro. I'll take badass any day of the week.
No, you are. You are. You got to think positive, think highly of yourself, and you are a
hmm
badass. You
hmm
know what I mean? So you got a lot going for you. But yeah, no, welcome to Tequila Talks. I know I've been, talking about doing this type of platform for a while, and I'm glad it's up and going. And definitely excited for our viewers to get to know you a little bit more if they don't, and touch base on a couple of topics that are very important and a lot of people probably don't think about. So let me know. Are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock and roll. Don't mind me. I'm using earbuds, and I'm still getting used to these things.
Oh, these are the bomb.com, you know? I love
Yeah,
them.
I'm new to it. I'm new to the earbuds or whatever they're called. And pray
The
for me.
AirPods? The
My
AirPods?
AirPods. There
Yes.
you go, AirPods.
So I've
These,
had these when they first came out, and I didn't use them till like year two. They're
wow.
just in the box because I was used to the other ones that are
The
the cord
corded.
ones,
hmm
But I adapted, But these are awesome. I love them, and these are lifesavers. But let's get to know Prima a little bit. Prima Michelle. So, Prima, I know, you're an amazing agent and you're growing. Your business is growing. What inspired you to become a realtor and what keeps you passionate about the work?
Inspiration came from necessity. Prior to real estate, I was a nanny, and I like the idea of working my own hours, right? And being able to still be available for my kids. So real estate at the time for me, I thought, well, real estate will be that for me, right? I'll be able to run my own hours and do my own thing um and not necessarily have to work a 9 to 5 and whatnot. And so I've always been interested in houses. Like I always like checking them out online, seeing them and going to different neighborhoods and checking out the houses and what they look like, the architecture, value. Just always been curious about it since I was a kid. So when I was transitioning from being a nanny, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? And so I was like, yeah, let me try real estate. I've always been kind of interested in it. And that's what I did. I went and got my license and signed up with brokerage. Switch brokerages, came to what was then Realty of Chicago and is now Realty of America. Shout out to our fan band. Um, and what keeps me inspired is the actual being the guide, right? Like being an educator and a guide to those, for me, especially the first time home buyers, but of course the repeat buyers and the investors and things like that. But it's something about the first time home buyer, like being able to guide them and educate them and get them to the closing table to get the keys to their first home. And just seeing how happy it is, how happy they are to reach their goals. That keeps me inspired.
No, absolutely. I know you talked about the first time home buyer. So, what is the most rewarding part of helping families or a first time home buyer in general?
Um, the most rewarding part is is watching them obviously get their keys and them feeling like they have something that's theirs, right? Um, I it's kind of crazy to me, but I haven't done the math, so I don't know the percentage, but quite a few of my buyers are like younger in age, right? A couple of the most recent transactions, one of the buyers was in her early 20s. And then my most recent last closing is a group of young men, ages 19 and 22. He'll actually be 23 in 3 more days. So they're very young, buying their first homes. And one of my clients, um, that you and I closed together, actually, both of these clients we closed together, young in age. My female client, she was looking to place her family in a more stable living environment, right? They were investing money into this rental that they had for so long. And she finally was like, you know what, I'm tired of renting. I'm tired of paying somebody else's mortgage. And she wanted to buy something for her parents. And that's exactly what she did. She worked really hard. She saved her money. She invested in a single family home for her and her family that she bought for her parents. My two younger gentlemen that just closed recently, and I'll disclose more information in a bit on that one because that one's really close to me. Um, they, they were like, okay, we're living here with family. What's the next step? And I educated them and like, you're not gonna go from n- barely paying minimal rent, living with family, to then going paying rent for somebody else when you can buy something for probably about the same amount of money, if not less, to get the space that you need, right? They had a particular situation. I jokingly say that they have a whole zoo, and when you're a tenant, you can't necessarily just move into anybody's building with a whole bunch of animals. They have four dogs amongst them and three cats, and it's
Oh,
like, where are you going to rent with that many animals? Nowhere. And if you do, they're going to charge you fees for each animal. And then what if you destroy, the animals destroy anything, then you have to pay for all that. So anyway, for me, it's, what's the rewarding part? It's seeing them take that next step and owning something of their own, investing in themselves, and trusting the process.
so these youngsters, are they considered Gen Z? Is that the proper
Listen, I
term?
don't know the Gen anythings, but I would imagine that yes. I'm a millennial, so whatever's after me.
Well, I'm a Gen X. I think that's what it's called. I'm an old schooler. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think it is a Gen Z. So you're the Gen Z go-to person I see right now. You know what I mean?
maybe,
You
yes.
know? Yes. No,
I'll take them.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I love this question. And I like to hear everybody's perspective on this. What's a common myth or misconception first-time buyers have about the home buying process?
What I've seen in my experience, the misconception is you have to have a lot of money for down payment, or you have to have like amazing credit to buy a house, or it takes a very long time to go through the process. And I'm like, what do you like? To get pre-approved, they think it takes like a month. They think it takes, 30, 40, $50,000 for down payment alone to buy a house. They think that you have to have like a 700 credit score to buy a house. Those are the three main ones that I've heard from people or have gathered from different conversations. That's not true, right? 580, I believe, is the credit score for FHA buyers. You can do as little as 1 to 3% or 3.5% down, depending on what you qualify for, the loan types. And you would know better than me, the qualifications for that. And then down payment credit, and it doesn't take 30 days to get a pre-approval. What could take long is the finding the house and getting under contract process. But that's all based on inventory. What does the buyer want? What does the buyer need? Are we all being realistic about our goals? Sometimes I have to play bad cop and tell people like, hey, let's be realistic. Everybody would, who wouldn't want a four-bedroom, two-bath house with a monthly payment of 1,500? Everybody would want that. I mean, I want it. It's just not a realistic thing right now, depending on the area that you want to be in. So just being able to explain the reality of the situation to certain, to some people that are not realistic. But other than that, like, all you have to do is get a consultation, you know, ask the
and
right
also be
questions to the right people.
and also be patient.
Mm-hmm.
In this market, especially today's market, it's not how it was last year, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. The markets change on a yearly basis.
Hmm.
Things change on a yearly
The
basis.
market changes on a monthly basis sometimes.
Well,
So
again, yeah, no, it
yeah.
does, but patience is key. You know what I mean, and having the right team. But yeah, you got to be patient, and the right thing will come. How do you balance being both an educator and an advocate to your clients in today's market?
I don't know what balance is, but um, what I do um, is I do take either there's bunches of trainings within my office, trainings within my association. So I stay educated and then I educate others, right? Whether it's my peers, because within my organization, I'm also a growth leader and a mentor. So, I take pride in helping my fellow realtor brothers and sisters. I take pride in educating my buyers and my sellers, my potential tenant clients or landlord clients, whatever type of client I have. So I try to stay on top of everything, even policy. And that's not even something I'm fully like versed in, but um, being able to stay at the forefront. in my many roles, right? So how do I balance it? I don't know that there's necessarily a balance, but I find it very important for me to learn all the things that I can learn, and access all the resources that I have access to, right? So being a part of NAREP as the vice president for the Chicago chapter, being part of, different committees at CAR, which is the Chicago Association of Realtors, those roles that I have within those two associations have helped me stay educated and stayed in front of other real estate industry professionals that have given me golden nuggets, have helped me learn things here and there, right? And then I, in turn, take that back to my clients. And it's important for me to do that. It's important for me to be an educator first, and then a business person. For some reason, like that's very important to me. I've told my buyers all the time, or my clients in general, come for a consultation with me. I'll give you all the information. Whether you choose to work with me or not, that's on you. But at least I know I've educated you. And 9 times out of 10, they come back, right? If that one person that didn't come back is just because they're not ready, right? But pretty much everybody comes back and they want to work with me because I do bring the education. It's
Yeah, no,
important.
absolutely. You
Hmm.
definitely take your time. It's something that you can't just have a 15-30 minute presentation. No, no.
No,
Especially
I
when you're
actually get
buying.
made fun of all the time at the office. I'm probably the agent with the longest consultations. uh, I always tell the clients like it's going to be an hour and a half minimum. There's nothing less than an hour and a half because part of it's going to be what you share, right? We're going to chit chat, whatever. I said, but the meat and potatoes of the consultation is all informative for you about the process, whether you're buying, you're selling, you're renting, or you're gonna rent a unit out. So, keeping them educated and giving them that information. It's a little bit of time, but it's worth it.
No, absolutely. No, I mean it's a process, and you got to know what you're getting yourself into. That's the biggest
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of people out there considering a career in real estate, and I know your firm, your company, does a lot of these career events or career. Yeah, I guess you call it
Career
career
night.
event.
We
Career
do
night.
career night. Hmm.
What advice would you give somebody considering a career in real estate? Part two is I'm guessing this is the same advice you probably wish you got when you started the real estate industry.
All right, so this earbud is driving me crazy, but yes, I'm gonna be very honest. When I started in real estate, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how you get paid. I didn't know how much you get paid. I didn't know how often you get paid. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I came from right before that, right before real estate, I was a nanny, and that I got paid cash between the families that I worked for. And right before that, I was in corporate America, and all I've ever known is corporate America, right? Prior to real estate and prior to nannying, where I got paid every 2 weeks, assistant income. It was a salary based, right? So real estate kind of just like fell, right? Like it fell into my lap in the sense of I knew I needed a new job. I knew I needed something to make money. What did I need to do to make money and still have my own hours? So I crossed paths with someone who had just gotten their license, and all I was told was, "Oh, you just got to take the course and get pass the test, get your license." Boom. That was it. I was given information on an instructor, on a school I can go to for my classes. Passed, got my license. And in the class, they did instruct us that we needed to get hired by a brokerage, because we needed to be with a brokerage for 2 years in order to run our business, right? We couldn't like be a realtor by ourselves. We had to be with a sponsoring broker. And that's literally all the information I had. And so now when people come to me, and I love like anybody that wants to become a realtor, holla at your girl. I got you covered, right? I'm gonna be very, non-biased. I'm going to give you very non-biased information. But also I'm going to tour you around my office because it's the bomb. But anyway, I'm going to give you information about like what it really takes to be a realtor and what you should expect through the process. So something that wasn't told to me is, you know, it's a business. This isn't like you're going to clock in and clock out and make your 40 hours and get a paycheck every week. People don't realize that. Some people don't realize that, especially now that you can be 18 years old to get your license. 18-year-olds don't know that. They don't know that it's a business. You're running, I have my own business. So you go in broke and you come out broke unless you're closing deals. In a business, what do you need, right? Any business. If you go open up a restaurant, you want to become a chef and you want to open up your own restaurant. What do you need? Most of the time, you need building to host that restaurant in, right? So you need a brick and mortar. You need marketing materials. You need staff. You need a menu. You need to come up with like what you're going to sell, right? Same thing with real estate. And real estate in this particular case, in my particular case, I didn't need to open up a brick and mortar myself. Number one, because within your first 2 years, you have to be with an established company already. And I was fortunate enough that I found Realty of Chicago at the time, was now Realty of America. Um, and well, I found them like 8 months into my career, but we're just gonna pretend that I started with them from day one. You find a brokerage that you want to be with, and you need to find somebody that's going to be supportive of your business. So I didn't have to open up an office, which is great, but I still have to market. I still have to create marketing material. I still have to create business cards and for sale signs, and I still have to, create my own brand, like how I'm going to market myself, how I want people to see me, right? And I still have to advertise for myself and I still have to find my own clients. Some brokerages give you leads and some brokerages don't. And even the ones that give you leads, there's no guarantee that those leads are going to close. So you have to find my own business. And all of that takes money, right? Marketing takes money. If I want t-shirts, if I want cups, if I want flyers, if I want business cards, if I want a for sale sign, it all takes money. You need a graphic designer, you need to print, you need to then push it out, right? If I do door hangers, who's going to design them, who's going to print them, and who's going to pass them out? So when you're going into real estate, take it for what it is. It's a business. It's not somebody's just going to cut you a check every 2 weeks. You're going to come in, you're going to have to do a lot of work, and whatever work you put into it, that's what you're going to get on your return. So what's my
Awesome.
advice? Give me a call, give you more details.
So
It's a lot.
I hope you people took notes. But yeah, it's I'm not in real estate, but I've been around real estate agents
Mhm.
20 plus years, and it takes work. It's not
Takes
something
work.
that you're just gonna turnkey and open in a house and that's it. There's a
No,
lot to it. It's something that if you're very serious, it could be a very rewarding
yes,
career. You know what I mean? It's
I
not a
agree.
job, it's a career. So, um, you know, definitely hit up Rima if you guys want to become a real estate agent or attend a career night. And she can give you more information, obviously, after the podcast. This is a topic. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on Tequila Talks. I know we're
Let me
talking
fix
about
these earbuds. They're driving me crazy.
the Gen Zs.
Whoa.
You're a proud mama. You're a mom, and a lot of parents. I'm not a parent myself. I'm a dog dad. But I do have step siblings, and I try to help them at an early age think about their future. A lot of kids don't think about their future. They want to live in the moment. Hey, I'm a kid. I'm a teenager. Let me be a teenager. Cool. You can be. You know what I mean? But those teenage years go like this. You know what I mean? And then, what are you looking to do? What are your goals? And like I said, I want to start with these questions. As a mom, as a mom and a professional, how do you teach your kids about money, ownership, or simply investing?
Um, let's better put it as a mom who's struggled with finances since early on. First of all, I was a young mom, and then I was a seriously broke mom. Okay. And so when I became a realtor, that's actually when I started really learning about like the importance of financial stability, financial freedom, investing, generational wealth. Literally 8 years ago, right? It's how long I've been in the business. It's a little bit embarrassing to say that. Not that I haven't heard about like save money and buy a house, right? Everybody says save money and buy a house, but nobody really has sat down and said, "Hey, Michelle, this is how you do it. This is how you save money. This is what you need to do, or this is how you buy a house. This is what you need to do." Even when after becoming a realtor, I had helped, or my youngest son's father and I, we had purchased a house, and even that was like what 3 years prior, or let me see, that was, yeah, 3 years prior to becoming a realtor. We had purchased a house, and even in that process, um, number one, we didn't have a very supportive realtor at the time. So that's another reason why I love being a realtor and I believe in education, is because I didn't get the education when I was purchasing a home. But also, even in that process, we did not feel very guided. We did not feel very informed as to what we were getting ourselves into, right? I knew a little bit, I understood a little bit, So fast forward to now being a realtor and learning all these things, right? How important it is to have financial freedom, how important it is to be investing in real estate, and how important it is to save your money. And having two boys growing, right? Two teenage boys growing through this process. I was adamant to my with my kids, especially with my eldest at the time. We need to when you, I started like this. I told my eldest, when you turn 18, he happened to be like 16 years old. So when he was like 15, 16, I said, when you turn 16, you're going to get a job. And he did. He got a summertime job, and that went from part-time to eventually getting full-time hours. And then he had two jobs. And he went to school and he worked I'm sorry, he went to school and he went he worked two part-time jobs. And then, as he was working, it's like, hey, save your money. Save your money. Like this is what you need to do. We're going to open up a bank account, right? And so that's about the only thing I had education on when I was growing up is let's open up a bank account, right? So I went and I did that with him at 16, opened up a bank account. And I said, hey, puppy, that's your money. You put your money in there. You do what you want with your money, but you should save your money. And then, he became a little bit more responsible at home. So he pitched in with, bills around the house a little bit here and there because that's just what he wanted to do. And then as he continued to grow, I would tell him, hey, you opted to do these bills on your own. That shows responsibility. Now let's tack on to that responsibility. Now, what I want you to do is when you turn 18, we're going to get you a credit card because you need to establish credit. Something that was not really it was always frowned upon and told to me not to open up credit cards, right? But they never really educated me as to like why or what are the benefits of having one and how do you maintain one properly, right? So, um, when I was 18, I had credit cards, 19, 20, 21. I had credit cards and I was misusing them and abusing them, right? So when my son was ready to turn 18 and get his first credit card, I said, this is what you're going to do with the card. We got a very low balance. Then you're going to use it for gas and you're going to pay it off. Use it for gas, pay it off. And I educated him and I said, when you turn 21, you're going to buy a house. You're going to save your money. You're going to have your down payment money. You're going to buy a house. So we talked about it. He worked on his credit. He ended up buying a car at 21, I think it was. And I was like, well, no, you can't buy a house, because his car note payment was going to be a lot higher than we anticipated. But I was like, you know what? That's what you want to do. He he got another big thing a lot of people don't realize is that when you turn 18, if you're not in school, like if you're not going to university and you're not enrolled in school full time and working a part time gig and getting benefits from your parents for healthcare and whatnot, at 18, you need a full time job with benefits. That was another thing I encouraged my kids to do. He went to trade school. He got a certificate or a license. I'm not sure what it's called, certificate for electrician, something that he doesn't want to do. He ended up landing a full-time union employment with a company, and he's getting paid really good money. He's been there for like 3 years now. So I said, okay, full-time job with benefits. He's got his 401k, he's got his health insurance, he's got life insurance. We talk about that too. So I'm big on life insurance and health insurance. Um, so, at 18 years old, full-time job, benefits, health insurance, life insurance, saving his money. We've established his credit. The kid is good with his credit card payments. He's good about his credit. He had some student loan debt that, we had to figure out. But other than that, like that was my education with him, literally holding their hands, starting with my eldest, and my youngest was still 3 years behind. And then fast forward when my youngest turned 18, it was the same concept. Hey, if you're not going to go to college, you need a full-time job. Luckily for us, my eldest was able to get the youngest into the same company. So now they both have full-time jobs, great pay, benefits, union employees. And I told the youngest, okay, now you're going to open up your bank account. Well, he actually had a job since he was 16 as well. But the full-time job started when he was 18. And so at 16, he had already established his bank account. Same thing, same concept. At 18, we're going to get you a credit card. Actually, his credit card started at 19. But again, it was establish your credit, save your money, get your income, right? Get your stable job. It's very important. My thing, something that I always was trying to teach my kids is if I'm not here, what are you going to do for yourselves? How are you going to maintain yourselves on your own? I don't know, I've always had this fear with like them being out in this world and not having the right education or not having the right support or the right systems in place for themselves. So I needed to make sure that they know about credit, that they know about saving money, that they know about having a full-time job, that they know about life insurance and health insurance and, God forbid something happens to you, or God forbid something happens to me, what the game plan is, right? And so we did. How did I teach them about money? I showed them all the mistakes that I made. I lined them up to get credit. I lined them up to get full-time jobs. I lined them up to, health insurance. And then we went from there. And sure enough, little by little, it was like, something I know you wanted to talk about was generational wealth. I've always told them you're going to buy a house when you're 21. My 22-year-old, he now is he at what was it like? We're in June right now. We're in May. In January, I think it was like, "Hey, mom, I'm ready to move out and do my own thing." And I said, "Well, over my dead body, if you're going to move out to an apartment, how does that even look?" But also, I just was like, I educated him and said, "Hey, landlords don't typically want tenants with three dogs." He has three huskies. And I said, "Your best bet financially and just for peace of mind is for you to buy." And so, we went into that conversation about like, doesn't matter where you buy, as long as you can make the monthly payments, you stay there a couple of years, you can either keep it as a rental, sell it, and move up to, upgrade to a bigger house or a better house or whatever the case may be. And then the conversation took place from there where we just kind of rolled into including my younger son in that process. And so then they both ended up buying a house. And now my babies are homeowners, building their generational wealth um, for their future family, right? And I'm very proud of them.
Yes, you are. Now you're an empty nester now.
I will be officially, I will be by the end of this month. Yeah, the uh my eldest will be moving out this weekend. Um and so yeah, the little one is trailing just behind him. There's a few loose ends that he wants to close up and then he'll be at the new house. But yeah, I'll be an
For
empty
sure,
nester.
for sure. No,
Pray
for
for me,
sure.
y'all.
We will, and we are. But yeah, parents, this show's definitely for you. There is a little credit hack that my good friend and credit repair specialist told me as a parent. First thing you want to do is establish credit for your kid.
Mhm.
And, as a parent, if you have good credit, especially credit cards, you can add your child as soon as they're 13 years old on a credit card, on an authorized user credit card. So you could
I
use
didn't know that part.
the authorized user method and add them. They don't have to use it. You don't have to give it to them like because they're gonna go nuts. But
Hmm.
it's to establish credit. So by the time they're 18, they can open up their own credit card, which they're gonna get a good limit because they have credit scores and a good history. And he also told me for life insurance, get them life insurance
Yes.
early on,
Hmm.
as early as possible because it is cheaper
Yes.
when they're younger and there's no
Yes.
health issues.
Yep.
So
That's something that yeah, I remember saying this some years ago when money was super, super tight. I would tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I'm worth more dead than alive because of my life insurance policy, right? And I told the kids, I would always tell the kids, I don't care how broke I am. I will go get food from the food pantry if we don't have groceries in this house, but I'm paying our life insurance policies, right? And so I've had policies for the three of us for about 10 years now or more. I think it's been more than 10 years. Um, and I just find it to be, I've seen a lot of loss in my life. Not like I'm grateful that my parents are still here, but I've seen like in general, right? In the public eye, I've seen people posting on social media. I've heard friends having conversations about losing loved ones, and they always revert to like a GoFundMe. And I find that to be so very heartbreaking.
mm-hmm.
Um, because number one is if you're hurting, I'm sure other people are hurting, right? When one hurts, we're all hurting, right? So, putting that stress on somebody to not only lose somebody that but then figure out how to find 20, 30, $40,000 to give them the proper celebration of life and departure, right? And so I've like for the past, well, because I used to work in healthcare, and the nursing home setting specifically is um what led me to getting my life insurance for myself and my kids is, I don't want to have that expense. I don't want something to happen to me and my kids try to figure out how to put, how to celebrate my life or how to say their farewells, while also trying to mourn me, So yeah, life insurance is important.
Thank you for sharing, Prima. I mean, that was awesome. Another question here is, what's one thing parents can start doing early to help their kids build generational wealth? I know you touched a lot on the previous question, but is there anything in particular they can start doing early?
For me, I think it's just even just having conversations, sharing with the kids what their experiences are and what responsibilities are. Growing up, the conversations about finances were not easy conversations or even conversations that were wanted or had. Um, I was obviously we were always told like, money's tight or things are expensive or we don't have money for this right now. But the explanation as to like how money is made, how to spend it properly, where to start and where to finish with that. So early on, like for my when my kids would get birthday money or Christmas money, I would tell them to save their money and use it for whatever they wanted. Mom and dad will provide what you need. You can get whatever it is that you wanted outside of that. And then, so it was like letting them know that there's a difference between wanting and needing, right? Those are basic conversations you can have with littles. Always talking about saving, right? Starting off with a savings account for them, very small, very young, whether it's a piggy bank or a bank account. Um, Explaining to them that like things cost money, right? Like, hey, I work and I make money and maybe you don't have to show them exact income that you make, but say, hey, like I work all week so that we can afford this $300 grocery haul or, to pay this light bill. Like the light doesn't just come on by itself. So explaining to children that there is a cost of living, right? Some kids just don't realize that mom and dad are paying the light, the gas, the water, they're paying the mortgage, they're paying the rent, they're paying their car note, they're paying their gas for the car, they're paying car insurance, they're paying cell phone. Kids don't realize that. They don't understand that there's bills attached to everything. I mean, knock on wood, I hope they don't start charging us for the air that we breathe, But a lot of kids don't know. They just don't know that there's an expense attached to everything that they touch. So, having those conversations early on, like, hey, honey, I just want to explain this to you, right? I just want to share my experience with you, whatever the case may be. That's how you start, and then little by little reminding them that when they grow up, they should invest in real estate or they should invest in stocks. Some people prefer stocks, or that they should just save their money, just conversations. Start off with
No, I
conversations. Don't be
agree.
scared to talk about money.
No, I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. To just not answer your question, but you said I hope they don't charge for the air you breathe. They do. It's called taxes.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's a good, yep, there
But
you go.
there you go.
That's how they
But
charge
no, I
us.
no, I love it. I love. Thank you for sharing. I love that answer. What you could start doing early is planting the seed
Hmm.
in their head about this, and
Hmm.
that's awesome. You don't have to do anything in particular, but planting the seed. That is, I love it, and have that thought process because once you start thinking that, then it comes into
Hmm.
fruition. So
Hmm.
I love it. Thank you, Prima. I
You're
love that
welcome.
answer. Do your kids know what you do for a living, and do you involve them in real estate conversations? Obviously, they do know what you do for a living, but do you involve them in real estate conversations?
So obviously they know because I was their realtor in the process. Let's just say let's go 8 years back. 8 years back, my now who's going to be 23 pretty soon. He was what 15 at the time, and my little guy was right behind him at 13, 14 years old. No, let me see, 15 and I'm sorry, like 11, 15 and 11 or 12, something like that. So at 15 and 12, yeah, they knew what I was doing. They knew I was a realtor. They knew that I got paid only on commission when I sold a house. Um, did I involve them in real estate conversations? Absolutely. They were at open houses with me. They were helping me set up my signs. They were hearing me talk with my clients, and they still hear me talk with my clients. And actually, I think that's what really inspired them too to want to buy a house and be, build their generational wealth is that they hear me sharing the stories about my clients or they hear me interacting with my clients. But they're all around in my business. They help me with all my community events. They're always voluntold that they need to show up and help me out. They get to meet some of my clients and hear their stories too. So yeah, they're definitely involved and they advocate for me too. My eldest is on social media. He's constantly sharing my posts and showing up as you know, Primo. You have him on social media too. But he's one of my biggest fans, one of my biggest cheerleaders, and I love that.
No, absolutely. I love that too. That is awesome. I know we kind of touched base. You answered these questions without even me asking. Like, what's a financial lesson you wish you would have learned it earlier in your life? And I don't know if you want to quickly retouch
I would
on
just
that.
recap the whole credit part, credit and savings, but not just like, hey, save money or hey, establish credit. It's like, Um, it's really funny because my youngest is the one who actually explained credit better to me or like showed me how important it is to do your research. So my youngest, when I was talking to him about credit cards and about like all these things, he's a researcher, right? So he literally did the homework and was like, I want this particular credit card because of the interest rate, because of this, because of that. And I was just like, dang, I didn't even think about that, you know? And learn that and explain that to your kids, right? In my case, I've always told the kids I want you guys to live a better life than I ever had. I want you to be smarter than I ever will be. And just know all the things that I don't know, because I one wasn't really taught the urgency or the importance of certain things, and so now I put a heavy emphasis on all the things that I wish I knew better or more of. I put it on my kids. And I'm like, you guys, you need to know this. Learn it now at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, because when you're 40, trying to figure it out is not cute. It's not, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But it's never too late.
It's
It's
never
never
too
too
late.
late.
No, no. I talked to them
Right.
about policy and politics and money and all the things.
Awesome, awesome. What's a practical step families can take to prepare the next generation for homeownership?
Number one, I got ridiculed a lot for this when I was raising my kids when they were younger. And that is hold them accountable. Hold yourself accountable. I got ridiculed because I like had structure and I had routine and I had chores and I had responsibilities for my kids. Part of financial literacy, part of generational wealth, part of a successful future is raising children that can stand on their own 2 feet, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to do things for your kids and be supportive of them and show up for them and maybe cater to them here and there. But I literally just asked my youngest son this the other day. Uh, I was like, "Oh, are you happy? Are you happy I'm your mom?" And he's like, "I'm grateful for all of the life lessons that you have taught me." He's like, "The practical life lessons, the life skills, that you've taught me." And that's important to me. I've always been worried about like, do my kids know how to cook? Do they know how to clean? Do they know how to do groceries? Do they know how to do their own laundry? A simple task of like, can they put gas in the car? Do they know how to check the fluids in their car? All of that is part of generational wealth and financial literacy because the less they have to pay somebody else to do some work around the house or do work around their car or whatever, puts more money in their pocket. So now my eldest knows how to change the tires, knows how to put oil, change the oil, knows how to check the fluids. There's some car repairs that he does do on his own. He even does some of my car repairs. But because I'm like, hey, learn that on your own. Go to YouTube University, go to your friend that's a mechanic and learn all the things. Those little things that you teach your kids to be more independent about is going to be more money in their pocket, especially if they use that skill to make money in the future. That's just me. That's how you do it.
Love it, love it. Um, this is a real estate question for you. How do you respond when someone says, "I don't think I'll ever be able to buy a house"?
I've had that question a gazillion, or I've had that statement said to me a lots of times. And I say to them all the time, you don't know until you have a consultation. Um, Even if you can't buy right now, who's to say that you can't prepare for that purchase in the future? Um, so I always tell them like you don't know what you don't know, and the only way to find out what you don't know is to have a consultation. And that's why I offer mine for free because education is very, very important. And I think that having a safe, stable place to live is it should just be a right. Like you should have safe, stable housing, right? And if that means that you need to buy a house to do that, then you should be able to do that. Um, and buying the house is already expensive enough. Like having to understand or learn the process shouldn't cost you anything either. So I do my free consultations for that in particular, especially because of my own personal experience where things were not explained to me thoroughly and I didn't have a lot of insight into the process. And actually it took it took 3 years, 4 years later for me to realize that there were a lot of things that I didn't know when I was buying the house that I should have known when I was buying the house. And so I was like, okay, I'll never be that realtor. So don't come to me with the, I don't think I'll ever be able to buy a house. How do you know? How did you
Right.
evaluate your assets? How did you evaluate your income? How did you evaluate what you could potentially afford? Did you talk to somebody to show you the areas that are affordable in your price point, or that, what those homes look like that you really like, what that would cost you monthly, you know? So if you wanted to just figure that part out, like, hey, I know I pay 1,700 a month in rent right now. I can afford that type of mortgage. Where could I get a house in that price point? Have that consultation. Book a consultation. Those are free. Get that information. You don't even have to run your credit. We could just talk off of ballpark figures, and then make a plan, right? I've had clients that came to me, didn't think that they could buy a house, and came in for the consultation, got pre-approved, and were under contract within 24 hours. And then I've had clients who got pre-approved because they wanted to do the pre-approval first and not have the consultation first, and they get pre-approved, and it's not for enough of what they need. Whereas now it's like, okay, well, you got pre-approved, but you need a bigger purchase price or more monthly payment. Now let's get the game plan so that you can have more income so that you can afford what you really want to buy. And that's what it's all about. It's about educating and planning and preparing properly.
No, I agree.
Hmm.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. You know, I'll chime in real quick on something like that. Only if a licensed professional tells you that I don't think you're able to qualify due to your credit income. But if they don't have a license, no offense to your parents, your
Oh my goodness,
siblings,
yes.
your compadres, your neighbors, your coworkers, your good friends, they're not professionals.
Hmm.
Guidelines change, program changes.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that change.
Yep.
They could have bought in the past, and now it's different today.
Hmm.
Unless it's me, you, prima,
Hmm.
saying that unfortunately you can't qualify at the moment, get that negative mindset out of your head.
Yep. Agreed.
you
100%.
know, it's the law of attraction.
Hmm.
I'm going to be a homeowner, then you'll become a
Yes.
homeowner. Um, what's one message, or what message do you have for parents who want to break the cycle of renting?
Number one is allow your kid to get a job and hold them accountable to save their money. They can't they first of all, they wouldn't be able to even rent if they don't have income. So allow that 16-year-old to get a job, allow that 17-year-old to get a job, whatever the case may be. How do you get them out of the cycle of renting? Explain to them. I The issue is that a lot of parents don't even know how to get out of the cycle of renting. That's the other issue. But how do you get the kid out of that is number one, the parent needs to get educated so that they can educate their kid. Teach them to not be afraid to talk about finances. Teach them not to be afraid to talk about, what their goals are, where they want to live. Let them dream. Let them look online in Zillow and see what the cost of living is in different areas for purchasing a home and, all that good stuff. I think it's important that, we teach them that it's not just about trying to save a couple dollars by renting so that you're not an owner of a property and then have to maintain that property, but it's what could you do with that property 10, 20, 30 years from now when that property's paid off, what that property's value is going to be, how you can leave that to the next person. What can parents do to get their kids out of the whole tenant, renting cycle? Number one, the parents have to be forthcoming with financial, first of all, get their financial literacy and then share that with their children. Um, and I think that I know for a fact in the Latino community, like talking about money is so like taboo. We just don't do it. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about a lot of things. You know me, I have another conversation that is very important to me is estate planning, we don't talk about wills, we don't talk about, advanced directives. And for those who don't know, I used to work in healthcare. Advanced directives is like, the whole what's going to happen to me if I become bedbound and I can't make decisions for myself. Do I have a DNR? Do I have a power of attorney? Do I have, power of attorney over healthcare, which is totally different than a power of attorney over my financials? All of that. It's like having those conversations, not being scared to have them. I almost get aggressive these topics come up because I'm like, I'm very passionate about it. I think they're so important. I think because I've had so many experiences of witnessing families and battles about money because, this person didn't know that this person had this and this person didn't know that this person had that. And oh, I expected, first of all, have conversations with your kids. Share with them what's going on, share with them what you have going on, what struggles you're experiencing financially. At first, I used to think bad, like, oh my God, I'm, sharing with my kids that we're freaking broke, right? And then it only, number one, it only helped our relationship because as my kids got older, they appreciated more what was given to them. I mean, not that they didn't in the past, but it's like it was like to the umpteenth level. They appreciated what they were given. They didn't have these expectations of like, I need Jordans and I need iPads. No, they were like, hey, whatever we get, we get. Um, they worked for their own stuff. They not only worked for their own stuff, but they help me here at home, even when I don't ask them, you know. It teaches them responsibility,
May
and teaching them
25th,
responsibility
11:02
is
p.m.
probably the
Eastern,
biggest part or
W New
biggest
Road.
key to get them out of tenancy, right? Because you're holding them accountable in life, which is going to make them want to be more independent and more successful, I think, moving forward.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a lot of the old schoolers, especially in the Latino community, they don't share a lot of stuff
Nope.
because, whether they're sick, ill, go to the doctor and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But, oh my
And
Lord, no,
and I
tell
get
us. I
that. I
get,
get that
I
to a certain
understand that.
extent, but there's a lot of important conversations that have to be had, especially in families where there's more than one kid, right? I'm a family and I'm a part of a blended family. So there's 11 of us. When you really add us all up amongst my three parents, because I have my biological parents and then I have my stepfather. And we're a big blended family. And, when you have a lot of people involved, financial talks are even less. And I highly am against that. My kids know what's what.
No, for sure.
Mhm.
Like, just to chime in on your answer, on the question on si se puede.
Sí se puede. Mhm.
I say that a lot. I know us in the Hispanic community have a negative mindset
Mhm.
or fearful mindset that, oh, I don't think I can
I
qualify.
don't think
Si
so.
se
Yeah.
puede. There's a solution to everything in life. I
Mhm.
say this as well. But death,
In Texas.
now there's a solution to taxes. I should say taxes, but now there's a solution. There's solutions where if you're in debt in the IRS, there's programs out there that can help you cut that debt in half or whatnot. Death, there ain't no solution to that, at least. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So be more confident.
Yeah.
Law of attraction. Think positivity. Say, I can buy, and
Mhm.
you will buy. Let's see here.
And I think there too is like, number one, don't be scared. And number two is even if you cannot educate your kids, because like I tell my kids to be politically savvy, I tell my kids to like pay attention. I don't know enough about policy or politics for me to educate my kids, but I tell my kids, find the resources, right? Like, here's a resource. Here, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And I bring them the resources back, right? So if the parents don't know enough about financial literacy, well, then, hey, find somebody that can teach them, right? Even for me, a few years ago when it came to like investing in stocks. I don't know anything about stocks. I'm gonna be real honest. I know nothing about stocks, but I know somebody that does. And so when my eldest wanted to invest in stocks, I was like, you need to talk to this person. And then they had their conversations and my son started investing. Um, right? Because I know my limitations. So as parents, we don't have to know it all. And what we don't know, we can outsource. We can be a resource, find the resources for them. So um, that's important.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this about the community. What role does community support play in helping families build build long term stability through real estate?
I think I need that question restated. What role does community support play in helping families build long-term stability through real estate? As in, like in your community where you live, or me as a realtor and community and stability in real estate?
Como quieras answer, it could be community in the Hispanic community. It could be the community where you currently reside. Whatever,
So, for example, where my kids bought was not their ideal neighborhood. However, I explained to them the value of investing when prices are low and it's not the ideal neighborhood, and how in a few years after the city finishes investing their money in this particular neighborhood, they're going to see the return on their investment. And for us, even in the first couple of weeks that they had purchased the home, where they were doing some updates to the property to fit their needs, just meeting the neighbors on either side, right? That community. Um, is helping them feel more stable and comfortable in their new house, and they haven't even started living there yet. Um, so when you're talking about community and like where you live matters, um, just because it's not your ideal community doesn't mean you can't make community there, right? It's not wherever you go, you have to build your community. That's how you build a stable, that's how you build long-term stability through real estate is by knowing your community. Right here where I live, I love that I know my neighbors. I love that we have great communication. I love that we have our yearly block parties and things like that. In my business, community is important for my business. Number one is I'm big on community.
Mm-hmm.
Hosting my community events, people showing up to my events is important for me. It's important for me because I like to give back. So if people are not showing up to my events, what that's going to do is just going to cause me to stop making them because why would I host if nobody's going to show up, right? I do it for them. I don't do it necessarily just for me. So being able to give back is important. It's important just because I know what it is to struggle in life. And the reason why I host my events and why they're free is because I've been in the struggle. So whether you're in the struggle or not, you can show up and not, be obligated to pay something just to have a good time with your kids. That's why most of my events are kid friendly. And I think that that's important in real estate. I think that that's important in life in general, just to have a good community, right? People that you can lean on, people that you can turn to. And I pride myself in being a great resource and being trying to be a good pillar of our community in general, by just showing up and being a resource to the people in my sphere.
Amen. Amen. Let's have some fun with some of these
Oh,
questions. There's a couple more left.
hmm.
So if buying a house or home or real estate were like taking a tequila shot, what part of the process is the salt, the tequila, and the lime?
You're asking the wrong person. I don't even like shots. All right. So, the salt.
The salt is you. The tequila is me, and the lime is the closing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would put it just like that. I would put it just like that. We just one big shot. The right having the right team
Yes,
is
there you
equivalent to the
go.
entire experience.
Awesome. So if I know you're not a big tequila girl, but if your real estate career were a tequila cocktail, what would it be and why?
Well, my favorite tequila cocktail is a margarita, right? Why would it be that? It would be a strawberry frozen margarita. Why? Because it's refreshing, it's reliable, and it's tasty. Very sweet.
There you go. There you go. What would you tell your younger self just starting out in real estate or parenting?
Um, I'll be honest, I do have some younger self-parenting regrets, as we like to joke around because of the commercial. But I would say for all my new parents, young parents, even if you're the second time parent, but you still have two littles, or three littles or
Or
whatever,
or wanting to become a
or
parent?
wanting to become a parent, heller. Something I learned while being a nanny for other families is the kid does not need everything new, first of all. I didn't learn that until my kids were already older. So because the factory still works, if I were to ever have a kid now, I know that hand-me-downs in all shapes and sizes of all things are going to be my best friend. And that, my friend, is the first clue in how to become financially stable, not spending your money when you don't need to. Um, right?
Awesome.
That we want everything brand new is one thing. That do we need everything brand new is a whole nother ball game. Kids don't need to be in Jordans and Nikes their first 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 years, okay? Because they don't last. So what would I have, what would I tell my younger self back then is if I could go back and tell myself like do this differently, it would be don't spend so much money or think you're a bad parent because you couldn't afford all the new things, all the shiny brand new things, and stop spending your money on the shiny brand new things when you did have it, put that towards savings or put that towards building your credit the right way or, something of that nature. That's on the parenting side. Just starting off in real estate, what would I tell my younger self 8 years ago? Something that I'm learning now because life be lifing is don't let life the way it does. don't let it affect your business. That is one thing that I'm very transparent. I'm very open about. You know, when I'm going through hard times, it does affect me in all aspects. Unfortunately, I'm human. I'm not a robot. So if I'm sad and I'm going through things, it does affect my business. So what I would tell myself, my younger self, is push through, don't give up. You know, take a step back when you need to, but jump right back in, and don't let the tough times hold you down.
because they don't
They
last.
don't last, exactly. That's what I
I
got.
love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, appreciate you sharing everything you shared.
Thank you.
We could probably talk for another 2, 3, 4 hours. You know how
Yes.
we do. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? But, our viewers are probably like, all right, cool. Did you get a little something, something I sent you?
I
Little box?
did. I did. And I think it is the cutest thing. How cute is this little thing? First of all,
Take a picture, post, tag, share.
I thought that was the cutest little thing. So it's sitting on my desk. The disrespect though, because I said I'm not a tequila. Well, I am a tequila person. I just, shots are not my thing. So I know this is Tequila Talks. So we're going to take a little baby shot, not a for real.
So, yes.
Because first of all,
So you prepare your little tequila shot, while, again, I went, going on 11 days or 12 days sober. And as I want to disclaim, this is alcohol free tequila.
which I'm very proud of you
Just,
about. And I just want to know is like, when are you going to start sending little zero proof baby tequila bottles this
I
way?
don't think they have little ones, but I'm going to have to buy
All
and
right.
make
So who do
them
we need to call?
custom.
Casamigos? We need little
Well,
baby zero proof.
this is Ritual
Oh,
Zero
that
Proof
one.
Tequila
Okay.
alternative.
There you
But,
go.
I know I did have some comments on social media about this, and it's gonna get me back to drinking alcohol. But disclaimer, full disclaimer, this is just for the show. I don't need to drink this at home on the weekends. This is just for the show.
Right.
I'm not having this at home. This is here in my office. Only for tequila shots or tequila talks shots. So, are you ready with your shot? So I'm gonna pour.
I'm ready with my little baby shot, y'all, because I don't really tequila like that. Or I don't take shots like that, period.
It's okay. So here's a virtual shot.
Saludita.
Prima.
Ooh.
But thank you so much for
And let's chase
all
it
of
with
the
the real
input.
stuff, coffee.
Coffee. There you go. Yeah. So you need to do a coffee talks, and if you like coffee so much, you need to do coffee talks.
Yeah, I thought about it. I thought about it. We'll see.
It's
Who
not
wants
too
to
late.
be on
It's
my
not too
show?
late. I can, but thank you again, Prima, for coming on and sharing as a parent, as a real estate agent, all your insights, your feedback, your advice. It definitely is priceless. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And I wanted to know if I can do a shameless plug real quick.
Absolutely. Go
So
for it.
this weekend we have our estate planning seminar, Saturday, 11 a.m. Free. I just shared about how important legacy and planning for the future, financial literacy is. I know that those are very hard topics for families to have, maybe even just amongst themselves. So if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation with your family directly, like directly with them, if you don't even know what that conversation should look like, if you don't know what to talk about in that conversation, you have questions, you need help, you need advice, join us this Saturday, 11 a.m. at the Neighborhood Loans Berwyn office, 6625 West 26th Street. 11 a.m. It's free of charge. We're going to talk about estate planning, whether you own a house, whether you are just a renter, whether you have money in the bank or you don't. You just want to get the information, get educated on what is an estate and what is an estate plan and what financial literacy and how that can affect you and how that can help you grow your life or keep yourself stable and your family stable, whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids, whether you're married or you're not married. It doesn't matter what walk in life you have. This seminar is where you want to be. Realtors, my friends, if you want to join in, let me know, send me a message. Everyone else, show up, hit me up, send me a message if you want, send George a message. I'm very, very, very happy and proud and honored to host. This is the first estate planning seminar. I will host more in the future, but if you want to join us Saturday, 11 a.m., be there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely share more on social media, but
Hmm.
it's something I'm looking forward to because I don't have any estate planning. I don't have all my
In
ducks
a
in a
row.
row. So thank you pretty much for
For
sharing,
sure.
and have a blessed week, and I'll see you Saturday.
See you. Bye.
Bye bye.